Welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another day out in the landscape. So this is my Sigma fpL, which I've talked about a lot on this channel, and it's hooked up to my Sigma 100-400, and I'm just using the long lens just to pick out details in the landscape around me. I'm reasonably high up. I'm near wastewater, reasonably high up. The light level actually is just picked up, so I'm sort of hoping that from this vantage point I might get a splash of light that might occur somewhere. Hey, we can live in hope, can't we? So having now used this camera for nearly 8 months, I thought it was about time I actually set out and set down really how have I got on with the camera system. I did a video, I'll leave a link in the description below, that laid out some of the likes and dislikes that I had with the camera system, having used it for, I think it was 3, maybe 4 months. So obviously we've moved on from that now, and some of those things I will have found solutions to, or I will have just, easy for me to say, or I will have just found ways to work within or around the challenges that I've experienced with the camera. So yeah, this video is just to lay out practically really how have I got on with this camera system. When I purchased this camera, I knew that it didn't come with a tilt screen. This LCD on the back doesn't move, it stays in position. The EVF though does tilt, it tilts up and down. Sigma, if you're watching, it would be lovely if it actually twisted as well, but it doesn't. And at the time when I bought the camera, I thought long and hard about whether that would actually be a problem for me. And I know that there are going to be people looking at the screen right now and they're going to be going, oh yes, it's a problem, or I couldn't cope without a fully articulating screen. And I have to admit, with the Olympus system, I've really liked having a flip out screen. Although, to be honest, I did break it once because I left it out and then I made some adjustments and I snapped the thing off. So, a flip out screen does have its fragility, is that the right word to use? But I haven't got that with this camera, and I knew I didn't have that with this camera. Has it been an issue? The reality is, no, it hasn't. To some extent, I've been saved by the fact that I've got this articulating EVF, it moves up and down. So if I want to have the camera low and I'm stood up or I'm part kneeling, then I can flip that up and I can look down into it. So that's kind of helped me a little bit. When I'm in portrait, well, I've just had to get down on my knees. I've bought one of these kneeling mats. I don't know what they're called. Multi-mats. You can see it here, hopefully. And that enables me to sit down on the floor, look at the screen. So has it been an issue? No, it hasn't. I can't remember how many images I've taken, about 1,200 images I've taken with this camera, maybe a dozen I've taken where I've had to kneel down or get close to the screen because I don't have that articulation. So a dozen out of 1,200, it's not really been an issue for me at all. In my likes and dislikes video, I did mention that L bracket choices for this camera are, well, they don't exist. You have to make do with universal options, and I have gone through a number of universal options in order to sort of land on one that works for me. And I'm pleased to say I have found, I wouldn't say it's perfect, but it works. So it's a L bracket made by a company called Pig Iron. It fits, obviously fits on the bottom, doesn't cover up the battery door. It actually helps to protect the EVF because this is where the portrait plate is, and I can use it alongside the palm grip. I've also got the palm grip here, so if I want to use the camera handheld, I've got something extra to hold on to the camera with. And yeah, It's not brilliant. I have to admit, I would prefer it to be the other way round and have a palm grip integrated into the L bracket and have access to the battery door. And that's simply because when I then mount the camera in a portrait fashion, I've got the EVF at the top, which obviously makes it easier to use. At the moment, when I mount it portrait, the EVF is at the bottom. My personal preference would be for it to be at the top. Has it necessarily been a problem for me? A little bit. It's not perfect, but it's a reasonable and sensible workaround, whilst at the moment there is no native or manufacturer L grip that will fit this camera natively. So lens choices, I am still living with a, what have I got? 28 to 70 f2.8 contemporary. This is the 100 to 400. I think it's f5.6 to 6.3 contemporary. And then I also have a Canon 17 to 40 f4, which I have to use through an adapter. At the moment, that lens combination works fine, works perfectly. I still have the option of a 70 to 200 f2.8, which I will use later in the year. That will be reserved for bluebell season, or if we start to get wild poppies growing in the fields, because that will mean that I can focus on a single flower and blur the background. Now, whether I need to keep that 70 to 200 and whether what I've got will actually be sufficient to do the same job, bearing in mind the 28 to 70 is also a f2.8, that I don't know yet. But at the moment, my current 3 lens combination is working perfectly. I know that I have a gap from 70 millimeters to 100. But like I said in my lens video, I will just crop in a little bit if I need to. With 61 megapixels, I have the option to do that. In my likes and dislikes video, I mentioned that battery life for this camera was not great, and it isn't. However, I have taught myself to be a lot more careful with the battery. So, with my Olympus system, I just tend to leave it on and let the battery, or let the system shut down after however much time it is, 60 seconds or something like that. I don't do that with this system. Once I've finished taking the picture, reviewing the picture, whatever, the camera gets switched off. Now, what that's meant is that the 4 batteries that I've purchased have been more than sufficient for a day's worth of photography, including a sunrise. The maximum I've got through in any one session when I've been out all day is 3 batteries, which leaves me with 1 spare. Additionally, I've managed to get hold of a USB charger. I'm going to have to get closer to the camera to do this, but it's made by a company called JJC. Hopefully you can see that. Let's move it away a bit. Hopefully you can see that. But it's a little USB charger with a USB lead built into it. And that has sockets on it for 2 batteries. Now, the advantage of that is, A, when I get back to home or my lodgings or whatever, I can charge up 2 batteries. But the fact that it's USB means... Oh, I haven't got it. Never mind. I've actually got one of these little battery packs. So if in the field I'm starting to run a little bit short, I can plug this into a battery pack and I can then charge a battery in the field there and then. Now, I know that that's not ideal, but like I say, 3 batteries has been the maximum I've ever gone through. And if I feel that I'm starting to get a little bit short, then I have an option to do something about it. So as with the L bracket, handling and ergonomics has been something that I've grappled with. It is a very small, very, very boxy camera. which, you know, and I'm somebody that's got long fingers. So I have to admit, using or holding or hand holding the camera without the additional palm grip didn't feel particularly comfortable. With the palm grip, it's absolutely fine. I've got no issues, hand holding the camera at all. I would say though that trying to hand hold the camera in portrait, I do find quite awkward. And this again is sort of down to the EVF position, because I would love to be able to sort of, you know, do it like that. And I've got the palm grip at the bottom, I've got the lens out here, but it doesn't feel, I don't know, it doesn't feel quite natural. And I can't do it with my left hand. Well, I could do it with my left hand, but again, it's not brilliant, it's not ideal. But have I actually hand held the camera portrait? Maybe once or twice. So, you know, do you know what? It's not a big deal, but it is something that crosses my mind every time I actually try and use the camera handheld. And it'll crop up on those occasions where I'm hand holding and I don't know, I'm at the seaside at a storm or something like that, and I'm doing, you know, crashing waves and stuff like that. That's when I will notice it. However, you know, how many times a year does that happen? Once, maybe twice, if I'm lucky. So, you know, do you know what? Big deal. I think, excuse the pun, I think I can handle it. So in my likes and dislikes video, I mentioned that I'd lost one of the EVF eye cups, and Sigma were absolutely brilliant. I contacted one of their ambassadors who very kindly arranged for a replacement, and I received a replacement eye cup for free. And it was entirely my own fault. I lost it. I was, you know, clearly more than prepared to pay for a new one, but Sigma sent me one for free, for which I am eternally grateful. However, the eye cup, even the replacement one, has parted company since. Fortunately, it's parted company inside the bag, so I've opened the bag up and then realised that it's floating around inside the bag. So I have to admit, what I have taken to doing is actually purposefully removing the eye cup, you know, just to make sure that I don't lose it. I also no longer carry the camera on the tripod over my shoulder, because that was the time that I lost it. It must have been dragging on my coat or something, and I think that's when it rubbed on the coat, and that's when it actually fell off. So again, it's something that I've learned to work around, but it is one of those things that constantly, I wouldn't say it constantly worries me, but it's at the back of my mind. I can't like use nail polish or something like that to actually more firmly attach it, because the diopter adjustment is inside or underneath the eye cup. So if I ever wanted to change that, then I'd have to, you know, break the nail polish in order to do it, and I think it would just end up gumming the thing up. So not a biggie, but it is something that nags on my mind. So Sigma, if you're watching, that is something that needs to be improved. So the only other thing that I want to mention is HDR options and bracketing. So I don't bracket very often, but I am delighted that I've found the bracketing options in this camera, and that when you use them, so I do 5 shots of 3/4 of a stop each. So what's that? So that's 1.5 under, 3/4 normal, then 3/4 over, 1.5 over. What's lovely about this camera, and I know other cameras do it, but I literally just have to set it up, and I've got a custom option which I just go to, and it's there without having to find it in the menu. But it takes the 5 images. So I frame everything up, manual focus, blah, 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 push the button, and bang, 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 bang. 5 images, perfect. But when I initially started to do it, I was 2 stops under, 1 stop under, normal exposure, 1 stop over, 2 stops over. that was too much. I was ending up with images that just looked horrible and garish. So I've actually pulled it back a bit to 3/4 of a stop, and we'll see how it goes. So far it's been okay, it's worked. It's still something that I'm playing with. The other thing I will mention is on the Olympus system, you could set it up to take the 5 images. You had to set up 2 options to do it. But one of the things I forget to do, certainly with this one more than the Olympus, is to put my finger in front of the lens to denominate where I've started a bracket and where I've ended a bracket. I keep forgetting to do that with this one, or I end up with frame number 1 with my finger in it, you know, and then I take the 5 images, frame number 1 has got the finger in it, and then I have to remember to take 1 more and put my finger on the end. But I'm still playing with bracketing, but I do like the bracketing options that are available in this camera in terms of being able to set it up and then just hit the button and the thing just take the frames that you want to take. I think you could do, I think it's 3, 5 and 7. If I've got that wrong, I'll put a caption in the description. So that's number of frames, by the way, 3 frames, 5 frames, 7 frames, and you can alter the number of stops either way as well, which is absolutely superb. And like I say, I have a custom function, custom 1, select that, and then bang, it's all there, and I can just hit the button and get on with it. So before rain spoils play, let's wrap this video up. I think my experience with the Sigma fpL is not different to any other camera system. I remember when I first used the Olympus cameras, I had challenges with it. I had things that I needed to work out. So I don't think the things that I've practically had to deal with are necessarily a problem. I just hope that by going through them, that if anybody is considering buying a system like this, that, you know, my experiences and the way that I've gone about solving them proves to be useful and proves to be helpful. I just think it's part of getting used to how this system works in comparison to my original Olympus system, which I still use, and then of course the Canon system that I used before it. So I'm not concerned by it at all, and the way in which I use this camera, clearly it will evolve and it will change and it will, and there'll be new challenges, and I'll find a way of working around them. So that's it for this video. I can feel spots of rain on my face, so I need to cut this one pretty quick. Hope it's been useful, hope it's been helpful. Please do like, comment and subscribe, and I shall see you again back out in the landscape. Until then, take care and stay well. Bye-bye for now.